Applying to graduate scheme can feel like jumping through hundreds of hoops. You've got your CV, online tests, video interview, assessment center, and in some circumstances, you have to prepare for case interviews too. And it is easy to feel overwhelmed. But I guarantee you, once you know exactly what's gonna happen at every single stage, and you practice, and that's gonna make you feel so much easier and so much better because you know what to expect. So in this video, I'm going to break down the exact process of graduate scheme step by step using real examples and practice to show you what you need to know. So whether you're applying to graduate scheme for the first time or you've been getting a lot of rejections and you want to try again, this is going to be your complete guide for graduate scheme, so let's dive straight in. First step, we have online application form. This is where you're going to upload your CV and sometimes cover letter, alongside with the basic detail like your degree, university, your grades, your achievements. And you might at this point have to answer a couple of motivational questions, such as why are you interested in this role and why do you want to work for us? Now, filling out the application might seem pretty easy, but this is actually your make or break, because this is the first step where recruiters are going to filter out so many candidates. Your CV should have all the up-to-date work experience and educational background, and ideally, you want to make sure your CV is matching the job description. So if you're applying for a consulting role, then you want to make sure your work experience are related to consulting or business development. And if you're applying to auditing scheme, you want to make sure to include all your coursework related to accounting, any internship related to accounting, and even certification or competition related to accounting. And here's where you need to prepare all of the documents ready in hand, including your transcript from high school. When it comes to graduate scheme online application form, it's quite different from entry-level one. They're gonna ask you for a lot of more information. That will include your A-level and sometimes GCSE scores. And if the company requires you to submit a cover letter, and you make sure that you personalize the cover letter so that it's addressing to the specific company and any specific project or work experience that are relevant to the position that you're applying to. Now, filling out the application form so many times can be quite tiring, but you want to make sure that you actually take your time and do it the right way. Now, next, if your CV passes the first initial screening stage, you are going to do online test. And this stage is also called Psychometric Tests, where they're gonna send you multiple different tests where you have to complete within certain time frame. And this is where most students struggle if this is your first time doing online tests. Don't panic here, I've got you. In general, there are 4 major types of online tests that you have to prepare for. First, numerical test, where they're going to show you data in different formats, including table, bar chart, graphs. And based on these data, they're gonna ask you to calculate. But what you need to know is this is not calculus or integration like what you have learned in further math. Instead, the numerical test is entirely focused on how good you are at interpreting data and how good you are in calculating them, and if you can eventually get the right one. What you need to know, you can use a calculator. I would highly encourage you to use a calculator for a numerical test and a piece of paper and a pen, because trust me, even though these are not calculus or integration, it's not simple mental math. You will have to write things down to make things clear, and it's also about the speed and also accuracy. Now, the next common online test you have to prepare for is situational judgment test. This is where they're going to test your reasoning skill based on specific scenarios. They want you to see how do you prioritize, how do you manage your time, how do you react to team conflicts, and numerous different difficult situations. And how this test looks like is they're gonna give you a text format of scenario. Here is one example. And they will ask you, based on the scenario, which action is most appropriate and which one is least appropriate. And this is where you need to have kind of business sense and the commercial awareness, as well as your strong understanding about company's culture. And the next most common question is verbal reasoning. This is where they're gonna judge you how good you are at making conclusion based on written paragraphs. They're gonna give you a short paragraph, there's no number here, and then they're gonna give you another statement and ask you to choose whether this statement is true, false, or cannot say based on the written paragraph. And the next most common question is gonna be logic reasoning. And this is where they wanna see how good you are at deducting, at recognizing pattern and predicting the next one. So what happens, and here is one example. In logic reasoning test, they're going to show you different shapes and a pattern, and it's up to you to choose which of the following is likely to be the next one. These are the 4 most common online tests that you have to prepare before you actually start doing your online test. And in some circumstances nowadays, there's another category which is getting more and more popular, which is called game assessment test. This is starting to use by a lot of bigger companies like McKinsey, PwC, where they integrate everything in one place. They integrate your mathematical skill, your logic reasoning, your verbal reasoning, how good you are at reading information and like synthesizing everything to come up with a conclusion. And they do that in the format of literally playing a game. So for example, here is a screenshot from McKinsey where you have to build an ecosystem given different species, information about the environment, and it's up to you to put in the right amount of species in the right amount of sequence, so then you have a functional ecosystem. They also do this kind of game-based online test to see how good you are under pressure and time limit. Now, if you haven't done online tests before or you've been consistently failing your online tests, my biggest advice for you is to start preparation way before you even receive online test invitation. Because here are a couple of goals that you need to hit before you actually do your online test and be able to pass them. First, you need to make sure you familiarize yourself with the type of test. You know the level of difficulty, you know the type of question that you're going to get. That is the first phase. And second, once you know what you're gonna get, you can predict, then you need to know where you are and how good you are. Because trust me, if you are good at numerical tests does not necessarily mean that you're gonna be good at situational judgment tests, and vice versa. Depending on your degree, what you are more exposed to, you're gonna be naturally good at some certain tests but really bad at other ones. So now you need to practice a couple of them initially to be able to tell which of these tests that you are really bad at, which of these that you're pretty good at, so you don't need to spend so much time on. And once you have a good understanding about yourself, then the third stage is to actually practice in big volume a lot of different types of questions based on what you are not good at. So this way is gonna help you to be much more targeted, saves a lot of your time, relieves a lot of stress, because you know you probably just need to focus on one or two types of tests and the other ones you're pretty good at. And then the fourth stage, after you have practiced a lot of tests, you wanna reassess your skills again. And now you're gonna assess yourself from two different dimensions. First is the speed, second is your accuracy. What's your percentage of accuracy? Are you getting 10 out of 10 right, or are you getting 6 out of 10 right? And at the same time, you wanna time yourself to see how fast you can complete all of these tests given the accuracy you have. Now, let's say if you are doing 9 out of 10 accuracy, are you doing that under 10 minutes or does that take you 20 minutes? Because these tests are also assessing how fast you are. So you really have to understand which one you are weaker at, is the speed or the accuracy, and come up with more practice plan to actually focus on either speed or accuracy or a combination of both. And let me tell you a secret. Nowadays, companies are also assessing how fast you are at doing the test. Let's say if they give you deadlines of 7 days, they are actually looking at if you completed all of these tests within the 3 days or actually within 7 days. I'm not sure if this actually plays a role in deciding if you're gonna move on to the next stage, but because there's a lot of competition nowadays, there's so many graduates, but there's not a lot of openings from companies, they're getting increasingly pickier and pickier. And you want to be 100% prepared so you can do it fast, you can do it right, and then you can do it within the certain time frame as soon as possible. Now, if you pass your online test, the next stage is video interview. Now, the thing is, this is not a live Zoom meeting where you have your usual one-to-one interaction with someone. It's usually a pre-recorded video interview. And what that means is instead of having another person on the other side of the screen, you will actually talk in front of a camera and you pretty much have to talk to yourself and there's no one else. So how that looks like, usually there is a dedicated platform used by the company. And in that platform, once you start your video interview, you're gonna have one question at a time pop up on the screen. You're gonna have 30 seconds to think about it, come up with some bullet points or solution, and you have 1 to 2 minutes to actually record your answer. Hardest part is you only have one extra take, which means that if you screw up for the first time, you still have one more chance. But once you finish your second chance, you can't re-record again. Doesn't matter how good your previous video interview is. And for these type of video interview questions, they're typically more like behavior and motivational questions. It's not much technical questions here. For example, these are the common interview questions asked by Big Four. Tell me a time where you showed leadership. Why do you want to join this company? Now, if you think about it, you only have 30 seconds up to 1 minute to actually prepare once you have seen the question. That is not a long time. That is damn short. So realistically, what you need to do for this type of video interview question is to pre-prepare before you actually prepare on the spot. If you think about it, there's no way that you can think about everything you have experienced and then pick the right one, come up with the right structure and solution to actually be able to talk about them in just 1 to 2 minutes. That preparation, you just can't do that in 30 seconds or 1 minute. Instead, you should do all of this prep work way before you start doing your video interview, so that on the spot, when you do a video interview, you already know what to expect. You already have some examples ready to go, and you just need to quickly adjust them and start recording. And if this is your first time recording on camera without a person behind that, trust me, you're gonna feel very awkward. It's not natural. And I have seen the most extroverted person who's really good at talking, who's very charming when it comes to interacting with people in person. They become incredibly shy, they don't know what to do, they feel awkward, and they look awkward in front of camera. So the next tip for you is practice using camera, practice recording yourself, and make sure you get comfortable and become natural when it comes to recording. And what that also do for you is you will be able to watch back and see what else is missing. And literally that's gonna give you feedback and an indication on how good you have done, how natural you sound, how confident you look before you actually do your actual video interview, which only has one chance. By the way, if you're super ambitious and you want to get job offers from bigger companies like JP Morgan, McKinsey, BCG, then I've got you a free training where I detail the exact step-by-step strategies that hundreds of students have used to land job offers from KPMG, EY, BNP Paribas. So if something that you want to do and if you're super serious about your career, then check out the link below. Now, if you pass the video interview stage, what's gonna come next is potentially a live interview. And that could be online live interview or in-person live interview. Depending on the company that you apply to, the size of the company and the industry it's in, you might have live interview stage or you might go straight into assessment center. Now, what happens in live interview is you're gonna speak to the recruiter, a hiring manager, or even a team lead. And there are 3 types of interview questions that you can expect if you do a live interview. First, motivational interview question. Why do you want to join the company? Why this industry and why this role? How does that tie into your career goal? Second, behavior interview question. This is where they're going to assess your soft skills, all the way from prioritization, time management, team play, conflict resolving skills, problem solving skills, how resilient you are, and etc. And the third type you're gonna get is technical interview questions. And that is where they're gonna actually see how good your technical skills are through tests, through questions, and sometimes through solving cases live with the interviewer. For example, if you're applying to a software engineering role, they're gonna test your coding skills. If you're applying to banking and finance, they're gonna test your financial knowledge and modeling skills. If you're applying to consulting, they're gonna test your casing skills. Now the thing is, this is where you need to be very clear with what industry that you're super into, because I will guarantee you, based on years of experience of helping hundreds of students to get job offers, one certain industry typically have a set of common questions. That means if you're applying to just finance industry, there are certain types of financial questions that are gonna ask you, and that will help you minimize your time spent on preparing for interview question versus if you apply to 5 complete different industries, you're gonna get overwhelmed, you won't be able to prepare these questions in depth, and you simply just don't have the mind space or ability to actually prepare them super well. Now, if you have managed to go through all the stages, even the assessment center, then what's gonna happen next are 2 things. First, if they really like you, then they're gonna give you a job offer. Usually, you're gonna be told by phone or email. Typically, they're gonna call you first to give you a verbal offer, and then they're gonna be follow up with an email with a written offer. And that's where you can start negotiating before you accept the official offer. You can negotiate for salary, vacation, flexibility, the start date. There's so many things that you can actually negotiate. And once you're happy with your offer, you have accepted it, then you just have that peace of mind. You just focus on your study, you focus on graduating, you could focus on traveling and relaxing a little bit before you officially start. Now, second, if you haven't received a job offer yet, don't panic. You might be put into their waiting list, which happens quite a lot. Now, what happens in waiting list is companies are going to give offers to the first batch of students. All of them accept it, then they just keep you waiting. You might not get the offer if everybody accepts and decide to take on. Now, there's still a chance that all the students that got offered the position didn't accept it, which means that they're gonna shift their focus on those who are on the waiting list, and you might be scooped out from the waiting list. And that decision usually comes pretty late in the year because companies usually wait until the last minute to make sure that they don't have enough people and they have to actually switch to the waiting list. And in the case if you do get rejected by this company for their graduate scheme, don't give up yet. Let me tell you, so many students will have to go through 30, 40, minimum 50 applications in order to get one single yes. And to be honest, what you need is just one single job offer. So here you have it, the full graduate scheme application step by step. Let me know in the comment which stage you are most stressed about, and I'll drop you extra tips in the comment section. And if you like this video, make sure to give it a like and subscribe for more. And check out my previous video, the ultimate timeline for graduate scheme and what you need to do in every single month. And I'll see you there.